All right, let's go ahead and get started. So first off, my name is Stephen Bucco. I'm the COO here at Spirion, and we have a very exciting customer and partner focused tech talk for today. I'm really excited to bring in several of my colleagues, including Jeremy Fields and Michael Thompson, who are experts in the MPIP integration space, and plan to talk more about that, the tags, about how you can leverage Purview with Spirion. And so really excited to kind of tell you more. All right, so before we get started, we have kind of an overview. We're going to have a demo. We're going to talk through various different ways you can use Spirion with Purview, and then we're going to do a little Q&A at the end. Mike Thompson's going to be leading that for us. Okay, so we've got about 20 minutes for today. I know everyone is very busy, and so let's go ahead and maybe go ahead and jump right in. But I do encourage everyone throughout the demo, throughout the conversation, to post into the chat questions that you might have, and we can kind of take those towards the end. Okay, so without further ado, maybe I can go ahead and turn this over to Jeremy Fields, who's then going to kind of talk us through how there's two different types of integration tags with Microsoft Purview and how you can leverage them with Spirion. Okay, so Jeremy, over to you.
As a Microsoft Intelligent Security Association, or MISA partner, Spirion integrates directly with Azure's information protection labeling capabilities in Purview. Using Spirion's automation, these labels can be applied without the need for manual end-user interactions via the unified labeling client, which extends the reach of automated labeling beyond Microsoft applications such as OneDrive or SharePoint, allowing Spirion, as a result, to apply these labels to scale across end-user workstations, file servers, or even third-party cloud storage. The integration, of course, begins by ensuring that there are labels available in the Azure Compliance Portal. Existing labels can be viewed by navigating to the corresponding menu under Information Protection. Today we'll be working with two existing labels that you see here. However, additional labels are easily created by clicking the corresponding menu button. Canceling out of this example, we can see that the existing labels are associated with two distinct outcomes, either simply embedding the information protection label as file metadata, or using Purview's rights management encryption to ensure secure access to the classified location. These labels are then synced with the Spirion console using a service account. Logging into Sensitive Data Manager for today's demo, this service account is specified from the external authentication menu accessed by navigating to SDM's administration tab. Here, we authenticate using Microsoft's modern authentication process, using an account with access to the Azure tenant's compliance portal. Note that the authentication will need to be applied to both the protection and label management options. Once integrated, Spirion ingests the published labels associated with the service account, then making them available to Spirion for automation using Sensitive Data Manager workflows or Sensitive Data Platform playbooks. Moving over to the Workflow tab, we'll now explore two scenarios. First, using the workflow rules you see nested under None, we can demonstrate how Spirion enforces Microsoft labels using the selective logic and privacy-grade accuracy of a Spirion discovery scan. Our first rule is simply going to classify any non-PCI data using a simple filter of locations that have sensitive data matches, but do not contain any credit card information. Moving from the Definition tab to the Actions tab, applying the Microsoft label is simply a matter of checking the corresponding box and selecting the desired label from the pull-down menu. As you might expect, the second rule we'll be looking at is designed to encrypt locations that do contain credit card information, simply as a hypothetical example of selective encryption using Spirion automation. This workflow's definition mirrors the previous one, as an inverse though, simply looking for locations that do contain credit card information as a trigger to eventually apply the Purview Information Protection label associated with the encryption action. Note that the location filter in the definition tab for both of these rules is simply used for additional context for the eventual automation, knowing that you can take advantage of many other contextual-based evaluators to ensure granularity when applying this logic. We will now run a scan that leverages these two workflows using the Spirion agent interface. As the scan completes, the most obvious outcome will be that the text file called payment will be changed from a regular text file to an encrypted text file or protected text file. Microsoft applies a wrapper to encrypt files that do not support native rights management authentication. Opening the text file, we can see now that we are unable to access its content without authenticating first as an authorized user. Similarly, for file types that do support in-application authentication, such as PDFs, we can also see here that we are unable to access file contents without authenticating to Purview within Adobe Acrobat. Further, we can use a metadata viewer such as EXIF tool to validate that the non-PCI files have also been classified. Looking at this PDF, for instance, the EXIF tool shows us the expected metadata label as applied by Spirion automatically through the workflow logic, just as it does for the encrypted file as well. For our next example, we'll be taking advantage of Sensitive Data Manager's File Watcher capabilities to kick off a scan dynamically by moving files to a monitored location. Here, we have similarly specified a workflow rule to apply the Microsoft encryption in addition to applying Spirion classification labels, as well as selectively quarantining any of the red labeled matches to a secure location using native Spirion remediation. Besides these native remediation capabilities, the benefit here with Spirion is twofold. First and foremost, we have a visual indicator, the colored gem, as an overlay in the local file system to promote user awareness when handling classified data. Additionally, as you can see looking at the PDF's metadata as an example, you can once again determine that the metadata from Microsoft has been applied or embedded, as well as the Spirion metadata. This opens up opportunities for context-rich classification, allowing organizations to enforce multiple labels as they see fit, knowing that any given file can only have one Microsoft label applied to it at any given time. However, there can be as many Spirion-applied classifications as deemed necessary. The metadata we're looking at here, both Microsoft's and Spirion's, is intended to serve as an orchestration hook for downstream security tools that are metadata aware, such as DLP policies enforced by next-gen firewalls, CASBs, or any other similarly equipped solution. Thanks to Spirion, and in tandem with Microsoft, these labels can be applied automatically with confidence upon the completion of a discovery scan, rather than wrestling with the accuracy tuning and false positive mitigation in solutions that lack the ability to do so without extensive oversight. That takes us through two example use cases, though the potential of this integration is of course as flexible as Spirion's discovery logic is robust. I'll now hand things over to Mike Thompson, who will be leading today's Q&A session. Thank you all so much for your time, and please take it away, Mike.
Had any questions from that? Jeremy, thanks for the presentation. I thought it was great, and these tech talks are great. Any questions from the group? I see we got quite the audience today. All right, I do have one question that was pinged over to me. It was what licensing is from Microsoft is required to use Microsoft Purview, the information protection labels? What type of license? Do you need like an E3, E5, or something higher? That's kind of the question.
Yeah, that's a great question. So actually, anything E3 or higher will get you direct access to that within Azure. But also the Azure Information Protection Premium P1 level as well will get you what you need access to.
Nice, good, thank you, sir. Another question I have is how long will it take until published labels are available in the Spirion console? Sometimes there's lag between two applications.
Yeah, so typically everything's going to show up within 24 hours, but based on all of our testing and application that we've done with this with other customers, it really hasn't taken longer than a couple hours to show up after you create the label. So one of the things that I will just say for everyone, so here we are talking about using two separate products to work in tandem to achieve a desired result. And a lot of people just in general kind of struggle with this theory of when do I apply labels to things? What kind of data? Do I apply it down at the file level? Do I just do things within the console? It's something that requires a lot of thought because for better or worse, it's a really robust system that allows you to do almost anything that you want. So when we're talking about classification, right, where we have just a couple of discrete buckets or groupings of data that we want to apply some kind of sensitivity label to, whether you're doing things based on like a high, medium, low, a top secret, classified, whatever it is you want to call them, the naming conventions themselves, unless you're obligated to use a specific naming convention, are quite frankly, it's whatever you'd like it to be. One of the beautiful things about this product, and one of the reasons why I love using it so much for my implementations and things like that, is simply that if I come up with a naming convention or any of these rules that I've created, whether we're talking about the Microsoft, the MPIP labels, or we're just talking about the Spirion workflow and classifications, is that I'm not necessarily married to anything that I'm doing. I can always go back and change things later on. I can change the names, I can call things, I can change the logic with which I'm, classifying my data or tagging my data. Because really everything is managed, as you saw during Jeremy's demo, is that GUID, right? So the MPIP label has a GUID, the Spirion classification labels have a GUID. And so, that unique identifier doesn't change regardless of what you change about those things. Now, if you delete them, the labels in Microsoft Information Protection or within, within the Spirion SDM console, of course, then, that is going to create some problems, but they're not insurmountable to fix from a technical perspective. But, getting back to it, when you're talking about doing classifications here, you don't have to go ahead and apply these directly to at the file level right out of the gate. One of the really nice things is that you can apply the Spirion labels just within the console, and that gives you the opportunity to go ahead and get comfortable with what you're doing. It allows you other layers of reporting that you can use, since you can apply multiple labels to things within SDM. And it just allows a lot of flexibility with how you want to, build your program. So you could use things like the MPIP labels and some of the workflows, within SDM to apply things directly at the file level, such as, encrypting the files or even applying an MPIP tag. But you can also apply other tags within SDM. So, just a really good example of that is, like something that I used to be concerned about back when I had hair was volume, right? Like having volume. So the same thing's true for sensitive data. If there's a bunch of sensitive data, that we have that's in our files, I'll look at like the distribution of like how many matches are in something. And so with that, I can create sort of a high, medium, low risk-based, categorization. And I don't have to apply that down to the file level. I could certainly just go ahead and apply that just within the console. And then that gives me some additional things that I can, again, report on. It gives me additional insight into, not just what type of data we're finding, but how much of it are we finding, within these files. So sorry, that was a lot. I appreciate you bearing with me there.
That's great, Michael. There's a few questions in the chat, and I'm just going to kind of read them through if that's the best route. So thanks, Mike. I said, can you apply an MPIP label to an email message? Is the first question.
That's a great question. Jeremy, does that work at the email message? I actually haven't done it for email messages to date, so I apologize for that. But we're just talking, straight files. I don't know if that's something that we can do for an email message.
So conceptually you could. However, the way that you'd be scanning email with Spirion, it's email at rest, right? So it's almost a forensic view of that inbox or that sent box. So the label being applied really won't have any impact in the receivability or whether it's being prevented from arriving at the recipient's mailbox. The best practice really to get ahead of that problem would be ensuring that you do so with your unstructured data ahead of time to mitigate any sort of rogue attachments in that sense.
Thank you.
Of course.
Good. I think there was a quick question. The next one, I'm just going to go down the list. And Jeremy, I think you kind of maybe alluded to this earlier. How can MPIP sublabels handle with Spirion scanning policies? I didn't know if you wanted to touch to that one at all.
So the current integration doesn't support the nested labels. However, that is something that we are looking to ensure we have capabilities of handling in the future state. So for now, it's only going to be those top level labels, really not intended to, let me rephrase, the taxonomy that you would use for the integration would presumably just be catered specifically to that constraint until we overcome it.
Great. And then Andrew Gorgon mentioned at a file level, the result seems to be the same metadata added to the file itself, basically. Are there any type of scenarios that you've seen where Spirion's classification is best, Purview's classification is best, or possibly a combination of the both, kind of more leveraging the two tools together? Maybe Mike Thompson, is that something you can answer?
Yeah, sure. That's a really great question. So I think Jeremy with the demo actually kind of answered that for me, in that, you know, being able to apply encryption to a file, you know, using Purview, I think is absolutely like one of the best use cases for using the MPIP label, you know, as opposed to using, you know, Spirion to encrypt, right? Because that's all going off of, you know, Active Directory and all those things, so that, you know, being able to authenticate, you know, to open those files and things like that is really, really useful. And like I was saying in my sort of rambling diatribe, is that, you know, if we're using Purview to, you know, apply the labels down at the file level because, you know, we're a Microsoft shop and we just find that to be easier, we can certainly do that and use Spirion to do that work. But you know, the things that I mentioned, you know, there's all these other things that I can find uses for where I would want to apply multiple labels, but obviously just, you know, not necessarily always down at the file level. But I can, right? So, you know, we can apply as many Spirion labels as we want, but from like a top level classification, like these are the discrete buckets of data that we're grouping, you know, that's really the one thing I want to apply at the file level. But all these other things that we can use SDM for, you know, an SDP, I really like being able to apply additional labels that we only see at the console as the operators. So that's really my takeaway from it. So I hope that was helpful.
That's great. All right, so then I see a question from Mike. So in the chat, we most of us know that we have two products, right? Our cloud product and our on-prem product, SDM and SDP. And we have a blend of our customer base that kind of falls into both of those categories. Could you speak a little bit to how you can maybe leverage this also in SDM versus SDP and the capabilities? I'm not sure. Is that maybe Mike Thompson can answer that, or is that better for Jeremy?
I'd like to bring Jeremy in for this one for the MPIP stuff as part of the playbooks, specifically because I haven't used SDP playbooks to integrate that yet. So I'm not as hip as I should be for this.
No worries. The blanket statement is yes. The integration works in both solutions. The idea is, if you happen to be familiar with how automation is handled in both consoles, SDM uses workflows, whereas SDP uses playbooks. The benefit to the SDP playbooks is that you will simply be able to create an action card, as we would call it, with that direct ability to add at different stages of the playbook the intended application of the label. Whereas in SDM, that would just be separate workflows kind of working in conjunction with each other. But both consoles support it, absolutely.
Okay, so I don't think we have any other questions that have come. Stephen, do you have any other questions? Because I have a parting question for the audience before we wrap up today.
Yeah, let me give you one more. It was can the integration work in reverse, as in can Microsoft take action on Spirion applied labels?
Oh yeah, absolutely. You know, it is bidirectional in that capacity. And again, it doesn't take very long, you know, for it to ingest in the opposite direction. So I believe testing has shown that it's about 15 minutes or so before you can expect to, you know, to see that.
And just to on top of that, the idea is with an E5 license, you certainly can, in the Microsoft console, create metadata-aware, DLP policies one way or another, prevent the sending of an attachment across Exchange Online. So Microsoft, particularly with the E5 automation, would benefit greatly from exactly that, the bidirectional, them reading our labels, just as we kind of talked about in reverse today as the main focus of the conversation.
Good. One more question, and then we'll kind of get to our parting, trying to stay on schedule here. The last one is, does Spirion provide alerting when a label is downgraded from a higher sensitivity to a lower by an end user? Or does it allow for preventing label downgrade in real time via the kind of the endpoint?
Good question. So to my knowledge, there's no alerting when a user does it, but we can restrict users from being able to, self-classify within the console. Jeremy, you'll keep me honest here if I'm saying completely the wrong thing, but yeah, go ahead.
Sorry, I'm using my cell phone right now. My Teams is locked up. You are correct. I just thought you were about to hand it over to me.
Oh, no. Yeah, I can see that you're locked up over there. So thanks. Yeah. But yeah, so again, just to put a pin in it. So yeah, it won't alert you, but you can say like, no, you don't get to do this. And also as part of the workflow rules themselves, one of the options that you have for applying the workflows and the playbooks is that you can choose which classification takes priority, right? So you can remove existing classifications and apply the higher level classification priority. You can remove those and just say like, nope, this is the only classification that's going to go on that file. So it's sort of a belt and suspenders approach in terms of what you're able to do.
Great, Mike. Why don't you go ahead and close this out? I think you had maybe some feedback from the group here.
Yeah. So before everyone drops off, first thank everyone. I thank everyone for showing up today. This is really nice turnout for this. And this is only the first one that we plan on doing going forward. One of the things that would be really, really helpful is, these are tech talks. These are designed for you to be able to, utilize, the product to the best of your ability, right? And to the best of its ability as well. So any other future topics that you'd like to hear about, please absolutely put them in the chat now. You can blow up your customer success manager's mailbox, your account exec, whoever it is that you want to reach out to. Let them know what kinds of things that you'd like to hear more about, and we will absolutely do tech talks based around what you want. This is all to make you successful. So we want to make sure that we're, diving as deep into things as you want, covering whatever topics that you want, whatever it is that we can do to help you, get the most out of this product. So.
Great. And also,
time,
I
Mike.
kind of want to, there you go. One quick comment as well to kind of close this out. Going forward, we're also going to be adding kind of customer showcases, customer highlights to these tech talks, meaning that we'll invite, kind of a customer that's using our product in a unique way, and maybe they can kind of do a little show and tell and kind of talk about how they're using the product, their use case, their experience, some of their challenges, because I expect that some of you are having similar challenges, maybe navigating the political environment internally at your organization, or how to getting infrastructure deployed, et cetera, et cetera. So there's so many different learning opportunities for this, and our goal is to build a little bit of an ecosystem and kind of a group together that we can kind of talk about those challenges. So it was a pleasure to meet everyone today, and continue to add into the chat where we're here in terms of feedback. If you have anything, we'll sit here and we'll take it and we'll add it to the next session in December. Okay. Anything else? Great. Okay. Thanks, guys. I appreciate the thumbs up. I appreciate everyone's attention, time. I know everyone's very, very busy, competing priorities, etc. Again, we'll do this again in December is our plan. Look out for the next invite with the agenda, the guest speaker that we'll probably have, customer highlights. We'll also talk about some integration partners. I believe we're going to have Lapide come to our next Customer Tech Talk, talk about that integration. So a lot of opportunity to collaborate, and I can't wait to see everyone on the next one. Thanks, guys. Have a great rest of your day.
Thanks so much.